Hey, it's Jim from Tabula Sono, and welcome to another exciting alpha demo and Q&A session. We also have Rachel joining us today. Hello, Rachel.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Great.
Most excellent. So first off, a little housekeeping. We are going live on Kickstarter on February 1st. That's a little over a week from today. So if you would please go to our website, tabulasono.com. There's a Kickstarter link up at the top right-hand corner, or you can visit our link tree down here at the bottom left, link.linktree Tabula Sono. It's also listed there as well. So let's jump right in and get into a demo. For those of you that don't know, the idea and concept behind Tabula Sono is we used to have these awesome tabletop games just down in the basement at our big old table. A bunch of people gathered around the table with dice and miniatures and just a battle mat on the table, drawing with whiteboard markers. So lots of fun times ensued, shenanigans, tomfoolery, etc. The pandemic happened. We all went online, and we kind of lost that spark and magic. Our games kind of just fizzled out once we moved online. Obviously, it's a little bit different because we're no longer together in person, but we started identifying a few other differences that online tools just weren't giving us the same level of creativity and openness that we used to have in our in-person games. So we set out to build Tabula Sono, and I would like to show it to you right meow. All right, so here we have an open world. By the way, this is all in the browser. So if you have a group of people that want to play, you don't have to download Steam, install anything. There's nothing to buy. It's completely free. So everybody can just jump right in and start playing the game with no hassle. Shouldn't be hard to play a game. So now you are here in the browser and everybody's joined in. So I'm actually going to show you how quick and easy it is to build a world from scratch with Tabula Sono. I'm logged in as a DM, so I've selected the wall building tool down here, and I can just immediately start drawing on my infinite canvas of unbounded creativity. And with my unbounded creativity, I chose to draw a square. So this square right here is actually in a 3D world. So right now we just have lines on the ground. So if we wanted to keep this as like a pathway or a road or something like that, that's fine. But we can also do what we call extrude the walls or raise the walls. So I can use the wall tools over here to actually bring another dimension into the game and pull that in there. So that's a basic wall drawing. You can also throw miniatures onto the map. So let me just go ahead and throw a new one on here. So our mini just fell in from the heaven, and here's our little default mini. Some people think that's me. That's fine. I don't mind that. And then we also have some other world building items in here. These are the world settings. So right now we've got a pretty drab board over here. We can spice that up a little bit by going into sunset mode, more of a desert type field. And then Rachel, what's your favorite out of all of these?
Well, unfortunately, you started with my favorite, which is
Oops.
Sunset. So give Toxic Wasteland a go. That's a close
Toxic
second.
Wasteland. So here we are in Toxic Wasteland, and you can also modify all of these individual parameters to make things as beautiful or as nasty as you'd like. Sky is literally the limit. It's up there. So that's just the basics of world building. But we also have another menu up here, and that's the player's menu. So I'm actually joined in this game as a DM right now, and there are 3 other DMs in the game. You can have as many game masters in a Tabula Sono game as you want. That's particularly useful for things like streaming, but maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more later. And then we have 2 players in here right now as well. So if I take this token, I can actually assign that to one of our players. So this token is new token, and I can assign that to, let's say, Ozzy. So now you see the base of the token changes color. And Ozzy, if he goes to the link that I send him, he can join directly in on his computer, and he can move this token around the board at his leisure as he sees fit. So he can move that around just by clicking and dragging, no complicated controls to learn, or he can rotate using the rotation buttons or some handy keyboard shortcuts as well, which are Q and E. Okay, so that's basics of how you'd start from scratch and pull people in. I've already got a bit of a game built out over here on the side, so we can use this to show a little bit of the why behind Sono. None of this is meant to be like super high fidelity. We're just trying to mimic that in-person feel of a whiteboard and markers and such. So as such, we have a bunch of walls drawn here. Maybe this is a tavern over here. If we scroll in and zoom in, we've got a barkeep sitting behind the bar there, and then this little inspector gnome. I guess he's a occupational safe and healthy administrator gnome guy, is checking up on the bar. And we might have a situation in a game where somebody wants to do something off the wall. A player says something like, does the tavern have a bathroom? And as a DM, you're probably thinking, logically, yes, I'm sure it has a bathroom, but where are you going with this request? So generally, it means they want to do something weird. So if your player's asking where the bathroom is, it's probably because they want to go into it. And indeed, true story, someone says, well, I want to know where the bathroom is because I'd like to go in there and see if anybody is hiding out in the bathroom. Okay, this could be a little bit of fun. So what I would do in a whiteboard game at my in-house session is I would simply smudge off a wall with my fingers and draw a new set of walls to represent the bathroom, and I would allow the characters to move their minis into the bathroom and do whatever it was they were going to do in there. So I could take my drawing tool here, and we could just extend out this tavern into a brand new space. And there we have it. And then I could even delete this wall or maybe just lower it down to indicate a doorway. And then Giblets could move his miniature into the bathroom. If you're wondering what happened in this case, Giblets found a person at a urinal, started a fist fight with him, and ended up killing the governor's son, which I think threw the entire region into chaos. So all of that because we were able to improv and the tool allowed us to. In a lot of the other online tools, if you wanted to do something like this, it would sound something like this. Hey, I want to go to the bathroom and see if somebody is hiding out. And then the DM says, okay, guys, take 5 minutes and I'll draw a bathroom on. And nothing breaks immersion like the DM getting flustered because they have to do extra work. Okay, so we have all these guys in here. We also have markers. You notice these room markers. So here's room 6 over here on the side. And then we have room 1 up here at the top. The markers are, you simply click on the marker icon at the bottom, click anywhere on the map, and it will drop a marker in for you. You can use that to say things like in room 5. And if that's still not enough for your players, we have a compass up at the top so that we can say on the door to the south of the building, that would be this door. If that's not enough, you can ping the map. I'm double clicking on the map, and when I ping the map, everyone that's logged in can see me pinging the map wherever I'm doing that. Players can also do that if they'd like to say, I want to walk through the doors and past this little room divider. If you have players that are non-PC gaming savvy and they don't want to use the keyboard for moving around, what I'm doing right now is I press W to move forward, S to move backward, A and D to move to the side, standard third-person RPG controls. They can also use the buttons down at the bottom left to do exactly the same thing. So you don't need to use the keyboard or be a keyboard guru or a gaming guru to be able to use Sono. And in fact, this all being in a browser means that anyone that has a web browser, which PS is anyone with a computer, can join your game. It works very well on low-end systems that don't have a lot of RAM, a good processor, or a graphics card. So that means players that don't have access to a high-end gaming rig can still join in on your 3D-based game. Or you can use your work laptop when you're on a work trip. I won't tell anyone. So I think that's it for the basic demo here. Let's take a couple questions, and then actually, Rachel, I'd like to ask you a couple questions that I got earlier today, and I wrote down if that's okay.
Go for it.
Okay, so the first one actually has to do with design. So if you don't know, Rachel is our creative director at Tabula Gaming and is responsible for all of the branding and most of the UI design behind it. I say most because if it's bad UI design, that was probably me, not Rachel. So the question is, I've noticed a lot of neon colors, neon greens and yellows. What's the overall general feel and vibe behind the brand?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, I hate when you say that I'm responsible for, because that means if something goes wrong, obviously now we know who to go to. But so the neon, we're kind of trying to go for like sort of like a neon fantasy dungeon crawl kind of vibe, if that makes any sense at all. Um, so part of the point of this is you can play obviously D&D, but you can play any tabletop RPG in Sono. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was not necessarily hone into like one particular aesthetic. So we wanted to go more for like a gamer vibe to kind of open that up. So you can do a lot of different themed type of games and worlds in Sono. So we wanted to keep it like modern, gamey, but also get a little bit of like retro and like a little sophistication class in there as well.
Right. So this brand is essentially works for any play style or any system. This could be cyberpunk. This could be steampunk. This could be fantasy or sci-fi. I dig it.
Yep, and still works well with some dungeon fire and the wood, whiskey, and leather type
Which
of.
is totally my vibe.
Yes.
I'm the whiskey drinking D&D player for sure, with all the matching fancy dice. Okay, so another question here. Are there any plans for photorealistic textures and lighting effects in game?
Yeah. So, okay. So, one of the things that we're trying to do that's really important for for the product as a whole and to kind of get what we're trying to achieve is like mimicking that sort of improv, keeping the focus on the actual gameplay and playing the game together. So we realized there's actually a line, and if you start to cross that line and get too visual, it actually pushes the focus. And so one of the things that we're actually always trying to balance this is as soon as we get too aesthetically detailed, it actually makes you want more, and then you keep wanting more and more. It happens to me too. Like the other day, I was like showing Jim some trees, and then I was like, and we can also get all of these like foliage packs and stuff. And Jim's like, slow down. Because we're trying to stay away from scene dressing and like really complicated map making and keep the focus more on the world and the story itself. So we do have plans for um, we'll bring in some props and like some scene setting and like helping to create a theme. So we'll have some props, we'll have some trees and things like that. We also will eventually have some effect packs, and we can also pull in 2D maps to the floor. So that also will let you bring a little bit more aesthetic if you want to do it that way. But we are being very careful to keep like walls simple, the props simple, so that it doesn't turn into creating movie sets, if that makes sense.
It does. And you also mentioned maps. So another question that we got yesterday was, can I use map making tools like Wonderdraft or Dungeon Fog to create 2D maps and bring them into Tabula Sono? And the answer is yes, of course. For if you're a streamer, a live streamer, and you're going to be sharing those and streaming those on your own channels, just as with anything else, make sure you have the rights to use the things that you create in another tool. But our goal here is to make it as simple and quickly or simple as and effective as possible to just pull in assets that you have and that you've created. I think one thing that I totally neglected to mention earlier is that you can also pull in your own 3D miniatures. Kind of a big deal. Kind of silly that I missed that. So if you have your own 3D models, just sitting around, maybe a treasure trove of 3D printer files that you just haven't gotten around to, or you don't really have a reason to print now because of the pandemic. Or you have a Hero Forge account or a Titan Craft account, or if there's anything like that, you can pull those in. Pretty much any 3D file we will support, you can pull those in and use them in your game. Okay, Rachel, do you have any questions on your end for me?
Yeah, I actually have a question. We haven't talked about this yet. But I'm also curious. So you're a DM. Um, what is your personally, what's your favorite feature that we've built into Sono?
That's a good segue into a feature that I didn't discuss actually. And it's a pretty simple feature, and it is just showing and hiding things. So right now, everything that I can see right here, all the players can see as well. But if I wanted to hide this Dungeon Master man for whatever reason, I can right click and hide from the players. Now you have a ghosted out version of the Dungeon Master man here, and the players can't see him. And when I click show for players, what's actually going to happen on their screen is it's going to fall down from the heavens and plop on the ground. So where that comes into really nice effect is for things like a dragon encounter or a big bad evil bad guy boss fight encounter, where they're just walking around in a room and then out of nowhere, boom, poof, pops in a dragon. And we do have a Kickstarter stretch goal that I don't know if anybody else but me wants it, but I really want to build it. And that's the cinema mode effect. And the idea behind that is the DM can then take control of everyone else's cameras and make them see exactly what they want them to see. So if you have a reveal moment like that coming up where you know this dragon is about to plop down, take control of the players' cameras, zoom them in on the actual place of interest, and then plop the dang thing down and let them have a moment of cinematic surprise and things like that. I just, one of the moments that I love in-person games is when you kind of duck behind the DM screen and then you come back out with that big boss miniature and plonk it down on the table, and you get that, oh my goodness, we're all screwed type vibe coming out of the players. It's just high energy and high emotion. So yeah, I think did I mention that was a stretch goal on the cinema mode? So back us on Kickstarter, as soon as it goes live on February 1st. I think did I answer your question or did I sidestep it completely?
You answered it.
Wonderful.
So there's another question in chat. You were showing markers with numbers. Could you instead use words on the markers to make it more descriptive?
Heck yes, is the answer. So we have, we're specifically referring to these place markers over here. So in the next release that we're doing, Alpha 5, I believe it is, we are going to replace the numbers with the ability to put in an icon. We have a huge icon library of things that we've licensed. So, for instance, I would probably put a beer mug to just signify that this is the tavern. And then in the following release, which is before our live release, we will also make it so that if you click or tap on that marker, it will expand outward so that you can have a label on it that says tavern. We'll also put some keyboard shortcuts in there, like maybe double clicking the control or command will automatically open and close all of them so that you can go back up to a bird's eye view and then expand all of the labels out so that you can tell what all the rooms are and then automatically close them. So again, that's not supposed to add more work to the DM. That's the last thing that we want to do. But being able to label the rooms like that and having players be able to look at them on their own without having to ask the group or ask the DM or interrupt the gameplay, I think is a really cool concept and a really cool idea. Any other questions that you have fielded?
That's all we got right now.
Okay, I have a question that was actually asked earlier today on a demo, and it is, are there any tools geared towards streamers and live play sessions? And the answer is not any tools per se. However, when we do our live streams and we're live streaming games, we always have a person that's not actually in the game, who's moderating, like moderating the Twitch chat or the Facebook live chat or wherever it happens to be. And that person that's moderating is actually kind of acting as a producer of the entire thing as well. So they're watching it, they're letting us know if there's anything that we need to be aware of from the chat, but we also get them in the game on their own account with their own view, and that person is actually acting as the cinematic director for the entire experience and the entire live stream. So rather than staring at the DM's view, which is probably going to be pretty boring, and it's also going to have lots of spoilers because the DM can see everything, like this big old dragon. We have another person that will come in and keep the camera up for a tactical viewpoint. If something is happening in a conversation between these two guys are coming in, then they might zoom in to get a little bit more cinematic about it, etc. So not necessarily a tool per se, but that is definitely a trick that you can use to keep your streamer audiences engaged while you're doing things that are somewhat mundane and boring, like social interactions between a couple characters. There hasn't been a fight in over 3.5 minutes type thing. Keep them going and keep them watching. And as far as actual features down the road, we do actually have plans for way later. This is a post-launch thing. Probably shouldn't even be talking about it now. A streamer mode that allows for you to invite spectators into your game. They can't actually affect the game world in any way. They don't have tokens assigned to them, but they can actually have their own camera and they can move around in the game world and observe whatever it is that they want to observe. So that's going to be a pretty neat thing. So streamers can have another option to monetize their streams for special access to these types of things. We'll get into that way later, like at the end of the year type thing.
So I've also found when actually playing too, when we have somebody streaming, that kind of third-party camera working, it's also really nice in combat. Because I think it actually even gets us more immersive as a player because yes, I can control my own camera, but like once we go into combat and you can kind of like get in a little bit closer, you can actually like sort of manually create some line of sight stuff happening. And it just, yeah, it pulls you into it where you can control your own camera, but when someone else is doing it, you're sort of moving through the battle like through everybody's turn, which is really neat too. That was like an unexpected thing that I have found with that. So there is one more question, if we're good to do another. Will it all be one level, or is there a way to support a second level for multiple level buildings? Which I hope the answer to is yes, because I've got buildings in my head.
Well, the answer is yes. So in terms of buildings, also in our next release is going to be the option for levels within a scene. This whole thing that we're seeing right now is one scene. I'm making hand gestures towards the screen like you can see it, so I'll back up. One screen is one scene, and there are levels within the buildings. Right now in this version, everything is on level 1. That means every time I draw anything, it's on the floor level. Anytime I move something, it's on the floor level. But later on, we're going to add a second level, which is 10 units up. So if you're using D&D and every square is 5 feet, it's going to be 10 feet up. And that will mean that anytime you're on level 2 and you draw, you're drawing on level 2. Or if you move a miniature around on level 2, you're on level 2. So there's going to be a second level of floors, essentially. And there's a theoretical infinite level of floors that we can go to. I assume we'll probably put a max on it just for people's sanity, but we'll let that go pretty high. And the other piece in the next release is actually the concept of multiple scenes. So we're in one scene right now. Maybe let me change this back to like night. So maybe this is our town scene where we've got some town buildings here, one that has a bathroom and the rest that don't. And then if I'm ready to go down into the cellar, maybe there's a secret staircase back here in this room. So I'll go down into the cellar. I can transport everyone into a completely different map or scene. And that map and scene can have its own world setting. So maybe that one already starts off in dungeon mode, and we've already got this pre-built out dungeon that we can explore together as a team without having to build everything from scratch. All of these things are saved on the server, on our server, so you don't have to worry about like file save, what happens if my computer crashes. Everything is always there. If you lose your internet connection and come back, everything is still there. Cool. I think we've only got a minute or so left. Any last minute questions we want to go through? All right, let's do an outro dance party. It's actually maybe a song and dance dog and pony show. So we are going to Kickstarter on the 1st. Question that we sometimes get is, hey, if it's a free tool, why are you going to Kickstarter? And the answer is this. We are going to need to make our money somewhere as we launch this free tool. Right now, we're bootstrapping it and spending our own personal money on the development. But once we actually do launch, there will be a premium asset store and a couple premium features for subscribers. We'd rather not spend all of our development time and design time and attention on premium features. We'd rather spend them on free features. So we're doing the Kickstarter to see if we can get enough funding to keep the focus on those free features for as long as humanly possible, so that the premium features can just be around to keep us afloat and not be the focus of the entire system. So if you would please visit our website, tabulasono.com, or go to the link in our bio. There is a link at the bottom of the screen now. Go there, and there's plenty of links in there that you can get to support us by following us on every single possible social channel that you can think of.
Everyone.
Every single one of them. And if we're not on it, let us know and we'll make a profile just so that you can follow us on it. So we've got Twitch and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. Also, go ahead and join into our Discord server. It's free to join. We do announcements there. We do streams like this quite a bit. We announce Beginners Night. If you have some friends that are just looking to get into D&D but never really knew how, we can actually help with that. So come one, come all, get into all those social channels. And above all, please make sure that you sign up for Kickstarter notifications. We're going live February 1st, and we really need the support of the community to make this thing happen. So, Rachel, let's say your patented sign-off line. I think you have to make one up on the spot.
Oh no, why did you do that to me?
Is that it?
I guess
I love
that's
it. So this is Rachel and Jim signing off. Oh no, why did you do that to me? Thanks everybody for watching, and back us on Kickstarter.